back here on the Party on st.john. We're sitting in here in studio with Rob Power, who we just listened to one of your tracks off your brand new album.
Yeah. How's it going, guys?
Good, how are you?
Doing great. A little cold.
Yeah, a little bit, but at least it's not nearly as cold as it usually is, so... So is this your first album that you've put out?
Well, I guess it'd be the first one, sort of my own tunes, yeah. Because it's playing a lot of other people's albums, I guess, and especially in classical music, everyone's playing this kind of stuff. Or playing, I'm a percussionist, so playing drums and a lot of other people's stuff. But this would be the first one that's just my tunes.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of players around me, and came up with 7 tunes I'd written over the last 10 or 15 years, and found a bit of cash and put it all down. Yeah.
Perfect. So how did you, I guess, get into, playing music like this?
Well, I was a drummer. I still am a drummer, of course. But, maybe in grade 5 or 6, all I wanted to do was just play drums along to my Zeppelin albums. And I got into drum lessons. And there was a fella here in St. John, Don Weary, who's passed away now. He was sort of like the guru of drums and percussion in Newfoundland for a lot of years. And a lot of us studied with him growing up. He's passed away about 10 years ago. But when I got into high school, he started showing me these other instruments aside from the drum set that he teaches at the university here, and all the keyboard percussion, marimbas and vibraphones, and all the stuff you play in the orchestra, timpani, and all the sort of concert stage percussion. And I really got into that, so I auditioned actually for the Munn Music School. This is back late 80s. And just took off from there. I did a degree there, and I really got into it, and then traveled around, did some other studying other places, and lived in Toronto for a while. And came back, and now I'm doing the job here that my teacher was doing at the time.
Cool.
Because he passed away, and I came down. So, just started out playing drums along the records, just found a good teacher, and then percussion's great because every kind of music has drums in it or percussion in it. So you can always find something that opens your world up, gives you a little path to go on.
Back to the album.
Yeah.
Question about that, actually. So not only, linking the School of Music to your album, what's my question? I lost it.
Did you get your students to play on your album?
Yes, yeah.
How did you get the people that played?
Well, there's over there at School of Music, there's a percussion group that I direct. They've been around for a long time, and it's like everyone who studies drums percussion at school, and it's called the Scrunchions.
Okay.
And they do a lot of concerts, and actually recorded a nice CD a few years back as well. And then a lot of those students over the years have gone on and graduated and moved to Toronto. It seems to be the mecca for studying drums and percussion, or a lot of styles of music. But a lot of them are sort of back in town. So yeah, some of them, there's some former students, I guess, playing on the record. In all, there's about 11 drummers on this CD, not all at the same time. But there'd be myself and a couple others who've been doing this for about 20 years. A guy named Bill Brennan and Erin Donovan, who doesn't live here anymore, but she was in town and is on the record as well. So it's mainly the 3 of us, and then a lot of my former students are involved. But actually, there's a couple of current students, sort of like 4th year, just about to graduate, who are on this recording as well. That's Kyle Andrews, who actually he just graduated. He's at McGill now.
Wow.
But Evan Hart is the other guy, and he's still around. He's finishing his music degree. Okay. Yeah.
Cool. So are we going to hear another track off the album?
Sure. This one is called Untouchable. You're in studio with Rob Power. We just heard your song Untouchable.
Untouchable, yeah.
Yeah, and you were saying that you worked with Bill Brennan on that track.
Yes, that's a trio. So that's Bill Brennan, who's a pretty well-known musician around town, and the other player is Erin Donovan, who is a percussionist from Newfoundland. She doesn't live here anymore. She traveled a lot. Now she lives outside of Halifax.
Okay. So we were saying during the break that it might be nice to talk about the instruments that you used, because the average Joe might not know the names and stuff. So.
Well, it's kind of an extension of something Warren asked me earlier, or maybe you asked me.
One of us.
One of you asked me. I can't remember. About getting into percussion in the first place, getting this. And what happens if you go to study drums or percussion at a university music school, it's often, unless it's somewhere where it has like a jazz program or sort of a funk program or a pop program, it's usually something sort of more classical based, in that you're going to see all these instruments that live on the concert stage or in an orchestra or whatever. So going to school studying percussion, when I was a student, I learned about these instruments like the big long marimba, which is like it's a wooden instrument. It's a longer version of the xylophone, which is a little more common for people, but it's just bigger and deeper or whatever, and it's made of rosewood, and it's set up like a piano, but you play with mallets, and it's got a really low sound. So there's a lot of marimbas on this record, and similar to that, vibraphone, which is pretty big in jazz, sort of metallic sounding. And then other instruments you might hear in an orchestra, different kinds of bells and stuff like that. So you can write for these instruments the same way you would for a piano or for a guitar or whatever, because they've got their own ranges, and you can come up with the tunes like you're listening to. Aside from that, there's some that are a little more exotic, like on some of the tunes there's tuned gongs, so they're like a gong, like you would think a gong is, but they're a little smaller, and when you hit it, it's a real specific pitch. So it's not just a wah like a gong. So and actually in the first one you played, Tunnel Mountain, someone's playing an octave of tuned gongs, which is like 13 of these gongs all hung on a rack, and you play them. Also, there's some crystal bowls, like tuned crystal bowls, almost like meditation bowls or yoga bowls or whatever you want to use them for. And they're pretty big, and you rub them with a big mallet, and they give you this big drone, and some of the other tunes, there's like in percussion, we play so many different sounds, like found objects, like car parts, like brake drums from cars are really popular, or homemade instruments, like these kind of log drums, woody sounds that you make. And it becomes, when you start getting into drums and percussion, this stuff becomes kind of normal. You see it all the time, and you forget that people say, "What the hell is that sound?" You go, "Oh yeah, I guess you don't hit car parts in your house, So there's a lot of what you call exotic sounds, or like found objects, or homemade stuff, things you would see on a concert stage or in an orchestra, but also stuff you'd see like regular old drums, cymbals and stuff. Anything you'd see in every style of music.
Cool.
So speaking of the instruments, how would a live show go for yourself?
Oh, well, it would. It's usually like, for example, the music on this album, it happens to use a lot of instruments.
Okay.
So it kind of lends itself to a big concert stage, because you need space. You also need space like off the stage to move stuff around. We do shows like this sometimes in smaller places. Sometimes in bars, but it's like a special event, and you can't bring all the stuff. Mm-hmm. So usually you'll see a stage full of instruments. And then in music like this, we just rehearse a lot, maybe 3 or 4 rehearsals for each tune in order to really get it down. So, for example, the CD release for this record is next Saturday, the 18th, over at the D.F. Cook Hall, 8 o'clock. So we're rehearsing now for that. So we had a rehearsal today where 6 of us got together, and we worked through it and worked out all the different parts of it. And then come showtime, we try to set it all up in a way that we can go from one piece to the other without having the audience sit there for 20 minutes while we move stuff around, because every piece is a different setup. It's not like one band playing their own tunes. It's like every tune is almost like a different band.
Right.
So we kind of choreograph it that way. Maybe see, I think we can play the first 3 tunes all out of the same setup, and then we take a small break and move stuff around. But it's fun to watch. It's very visual. Watching percussionists, because obviously it's almost like dance sometimes, because they're really jumping around and diving around, and if you get bored with the music, you can just watch for a while. Don't say, how is he going to hit that thing? He got it. So you can play games as an audience member too. But yeah, it's generally it's a lot of sort of logistics, but a lot of instruments, and it's fun to watch, and you have people captive in a concert, so you can stretch a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
So what's the writing process like for you, I guess, producing a song? Where do you find your inspirations or your ideas for the songs that you write?
Yeah, everybody's different. I mean, this being instrumental music, it doesn't really come, for me, it doesn't necessarily come from any kind of lyrics or poetry or something. It could, you could be inspired by something and just compose music about it. But where there's no vocals in it, usually it comes from maybe sitting down at your instrument, often sitting down at a piano, maybe stuff you had in your head, or it could be based on some theme you already know, but you're doing your own variation on it or whatever. So for me, it's usually starting at a piano and working out chords that I've wanted to put together or whatever, and then you kind of hear in your head what instruments might want to play them, and then I'm lucky in that I have access to a lot of these percussion instruments, so instead of having to guess what they sound like, I'll just go to the instrument.
Yeah.
I'd rather write parts that are fun to play, not just something, oh, that's neat, but it looks like they're having a hard time with it.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem entertaining to me. So being a player, I'll come up with music maybe from the piano or something, but then figure out how I'd want to play it, and if I were a player, how I'd want it to work, and
right.
And so go to each instrument and then put it all together, and then get a gang together, and if some things don't work, make a few changes, and then make a decision.
Cool. So I guess where you don't have lyrics to your songs, how do you come up with the names?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah. Well, each one's different. Some composers in classical music, they name things after places where they wrote it. They were inspired by some park in Europe, or some amazing ocean or lake or something like that. I kind of have a hankering for Newfoundland place names. So like a couple of the tunes on here, I think Capahayden and Woody Island are both Newfoundland place names. They have nothing to do with the music. I didn't go there to write it, or it wasn't about fishery dying in '92 or something like that. But I just thought, that's a cool name, we'll call it that. But in other cases, like there's one called Tunnel Mountain, and that's actually a mountain in Banff, Alberta, and that's where I was when I wrote it. So I go on that mountain every day, and somehow that was just in my head when I wrote it. So it can be kind of random. Like there's a tune on there called Grey Matter, which was written I wrote it as a solo for a friend of mine who teaches at Dalhousie University. His name happens to be Darcy Gray, so it's called Grey Matter. So it's for me, the title is not all that important.
Yeah.
I like Newfoundland place names, so I just go to the map usually. Find
Point.
Yeah. All right, we'll take a little break.
Sounds good.
And we'll come back with Rob Power. Back here in studio with Rob Power. Oh, there we go.
Now we are back in studio with Rob Power. Cool. So you have a show coming up next week. Do you want to just spin the details on that?
Sure, yeah. Week from tonight, so Saturday 18th. It's a CD release concert, but it's on the stage of the D.F. Cook Hall, 8 o'clock.
Cool.
And you can get, of course, CDs there. It's a CD release. But so it's all drummers, percussionists. We're going to play most of the stuff from the record. Some of it we couldn't play it all because each piece on there is like a totally different setup and different group of people. It's almost like having 7 bands. So we're playing a lot of it anyway. But a bunch of drummers, and what I like about it is there's some drummers that other people would know as drummers downtown playing in different bands, and don't realize that they also have or do this kind of thing. Like, for example, Andrew McCarthy is a well-known drummer, and he's playing marimbas and stuff on this. Whitney Rowe, she plays in the band, what's that band? Hearsay, hip-hop band.
Oh, okay.
And she did a music degree, and she plays in the symphony with me, and she plays marimbas and all this stuff on this record as well. Bill Brennan, who people know as a piano player and a conductor and stuff, but he's also playing percussion. So it's neat. It's in a way, it's a different role for some of these people.
Right.
So it should be a fun show. Lots of sort of uppity, boppy kind of tunes. Not too long, maybe about an hour. Sort of a straight set, just to play through as much music as we can, and then go party.
So if people miss the CD release and they can't pick up a CD there, where can they find?
They can check it out. In fact, you down at Fred's Records in town for sure. They've got it. And if you want to just check it out, it's on iTunes and CD Baby. But the easiest way to remember how to find it is just go right to my website, which is robpower.ca. And from there you can get it any way you want. Link to iTunes or go to Fred's or buy it off CD Baby or download or whatever you want. But robpower.ca will lead you to all things percussion.
Do you have any plans for the future? Like anything that you're planning on releasing within the new future? Yeah,
recording wise, be a little while in terms of my own stuff before I get another one.
Right.
I'm still writing stuff for other people, but over there at School of Music, there's a lot of concerts happening. So certainly there's a lot of live stuff happening. And if you check out the Mun Music website, you'll see all the concerts that are there. And luckily there's a lot of percussion and stuff like that, so I'm pretty busy there as well.
Okay.
It'd be, I think it's mun.ca/music, and then there's concert listings there. And it basically starts gearing up once we get about a month into semester, where a lot of groups have things happening, you know. So yeah, there'll be lots of different projects, and hopefully a new recording in a couple of years.
Cool.
Sounds good. Thank you very much for joining us here.
Hey, this is great. Thanks for having me at the party. Thanks.
Cool.